so we'll go ahead and get started. Hi to everyone. Thanks for joining us today. We're really happy to have you here. I'm Haley Warwick, Marketing Director here at MyDocs, and I'm joined by Gianna Voccola, Senior AVP for Enrollment Management and Dean of Undergraduate Admission at Merrimack College, as well as Rob Green, Chief Operating Officer at MyDocs. Today we're going to be discussing using AI-powered transcript insights to drive smarter, faster enrollment decisions. And the goal of our session today is to keep it very practical, grounded in real admissions work. So we're really excited to have Gianna here today sharing her experience and perspective with us. Two quick things as we get started. We are recording today's session, so we'll send out the recording and a few other resources in the coming days. And then you can submit questions at any point using the Q&A feature. We'll try to save a few minutes at the end to get through as many as we can, but we can always follow up afterwards as well. With that said, here is how we're going to spend the next 28 minutes. So we'll start with a quick look at what's changing in admissions, why transcript complexity has become such a challenge for teams. Gianna's going to share more about Merrimack's enrollment landscape, how they've really approached innovating transcript evaluation, as well as operational changes. Rob will walk through a live example of how MyDocs turns transcripts into structured, usable academic data to really power enrollment decisions. And then we'll wrap up talking about outcomes, impact, and hopefully a bit of time for Q&A as well. And now I will turn it over to Gianna to share a little bit more about herself and Merrimack.
Thanks so much, Haley. I'm really excited to be here and talk to you a little bit more about our experience with MyDocs. But to give you some background on me, I currently serve as Senior Associate Vice President for Enrollment Management and Dean of Undergraduate Admission at Merrimack. If you are not familiar with us, Merrimack is a private Augustinian Catholic college. We're located just north of Boston, and we serve about 6,000 students in total. So in my current role, I oversee both strategy and operations for undergraduate admission, and I partner quite closely with institutional leadership on things like financial aid strategy and long-term enrollment planning. I've spent nearly 2 decades in enrollment management and 7 of those years in total at Merrimack, and I'm also in the process of completing my doctorate in higher education management at the University of Pennsylvania. So that's a little bit about me. Rob, I'll kick it over to you.
Fantastic. So nothing going on in your world. I think it's
Nothing at
also
all. Nothing at all.
nothing at all. It's also important to note, I think it's great. Merrimack is consistently ranked as one of the top innovative colleges in the country too. So congratulations on that.
You got it.
So I'm Rob Green. I'm the Chief Operating Officer here at MyDocs. So I work in a variety of capacities here at the company. And one of my favorites is when I'm working with clients. So Gianna and I have worked closely together over the course of their time with MyDocs, which is really exciting for me because I get to get firsthand experience with the clients and how they're using a platform. I have about 20 years in higher education. I spent about 10 years with the Berklee College of Music in a variety of roles, including admissions, as well as Columbia College Chicago, where I started their online division. So I've got a lot of experience here at MyDocs, and one of my favorite things about being here is that we're all from the academic background, and we've all worked at institutions at one point or another. And it's also important to note that we were founded by John Reese, who was one of the original founders of Parchment. So shout out to John and for bringing us all together today. And as Haley mentioned, at its core, MyDocs turns transcripts into clean, standardized data so admissions teams can review and compare students faster to make better decisions while laying the foundation for future analytics. So back to you, Haley.
Awesome. Gianna, do you want to talk kind of briefly about the admissions landscape, just kind of honing in on the things that you know this group will care about and resonate with?
So to give you a little bit of a story, when I started in admission 16 years ago, we were reviewing transcripts manually. And as a new professional, I remember just agonizing over how much judgment it required. And the truth is, Haley, that core process really hasn't changed all that much, which is really interesting because the environment around us has certainly changed so much. The volume is higher. As Rob noted, Merrimack is ranked an innovative college, but we're also one of the fastest growing colleges in New England. So volume for us is up. Transcripts, as you noted, have become so much more complex. Students expect decisions faster, and all while admission offices are being asked to do more with less. The pressure has really significantly increased. And without a widespread shift in the way that we're doing these fundamental processes like transcript evaluation, things really have the capacity to be left behind or fall through the cracks, which is great to see a company like MyDocs come up with a really innovative solution. So when we increase the pressure on something like application growth, application volume, transcript volume without changing the process, the pain points just become all the more amplified. Manual transcript review is extremely time intensive, and it requires this careful judgment and consumes a significant amount of staff capacity. Much of the information, as Rob, you noted, we need as enrollment professionals is really buried in these PDFs, scanned documents, things that come through email, Naviance, which means that someone needs to do the manual work of interpreting it before we can easily use it. Even with
Right.
things like strong training, evaluations can vary really across readers because the process requires heavily human influence to really understand what we're looking at. And then to layer on top of all of that is this, what I like to call the human capital crisis, where experienced staff are leaving at really critical points like mid-cycle, and their
Mhm.
knowledge leaves with them. And that creates a real operational risk and deficiency.
Yeah, Gianna, you mentioned something just now about changing the process. And I think that's important because one of the things that we like to bring to the table is the ability for institutions to actually change or improve process and not just use a piece of software to do the same thing that you've been doing. Could you describe something that maybe changed internally and how you adapted a better process with the platform itself? Any insight on that?
Yeah, our process has changed pretty radically since the introduction of MyDocs. We've really looked at ways that we can be more efficient. We have really used the maps that you'll be talking about later to help the counselors really spend more time doing things that they should be doing
Mhm.
versus the manual pecking and typing and entering. They're really able to know our students at a much deeper level because their time is freed up from having to do such manual processes. Instead of it taking them maybe 10 minutes to review a transcript, now it's taking them 2 or 3, and that's really with an intensive deep dive. So our process has really changed radically for the better, and it's really because of this partnership, which has been so great for us.
Great. Thank you.
So I wanted to give you a sense of Merrimack's enrollment reality and all of the things that we just discussed, those pain points, the things that are happening in the environment right now. We're all living it day to day. And you heard me mention Merrimack is one of the fastest growing schools in the country. Well, we've seen significant growth in both our application volume and the complexity of the transcripts that are coming in. So to give you a quick stat, in our most recent cycle, we experienced a 25% increase in total applications across our freshman, international, and transfer apps.
Mhm.
So prior to implementing MyDocs, we relied heavily on manual transcript review. And while our team is super thoughtful and well trained, the complexity and the volume just increased and increased, which made it difficult to maintain accuracy in our recalculations. It made consistency really challenging. We spent a lot of time going back through transcripts that had already been reviewed to make sure that things were calculated correctly, that our counselors were weighting certain courses correctly, that they were taking the right courses and omitting courses that we don't count. And so speed became very, very difficult as a result, especially because of that application growth. We saw just shy of 19,000 applications last year. So
Yeah,
at the
it's
same,
amazing.
yeah, it really was. And at the same time, and you know this, Rob, from our
Yeah.
conversations, we are under tremendous pressure to shorten the time to decision. I think anybody that
Yep.
worked in enrollment management knows that the first one out, you always strive to be that first one out with your decisions, and we're there too.
Mhm.
So that pressure is really real. And at the same time, we had really limited visibility into what the pool looked like because it was taking so long for us to get through this critical mass of applications. So we weren't able to
Yeah.
see trends the way we are now, which has been a huge game changer for us.
Yeah, I think one of the first things we worked together on, Gianna, was actually early admit a while
Yeah,
back, where I think
yeah,
we processed like some over 10,000
yeah,
transcripts in like a weekend day to try to get you the insight sooner. So that was a lot of fun. But yeah, congratulations again on the growth. I know it's crazy busy for everyone, but it was nice to be able to get that done for you guys in a timely fashion. So great examples.
yeah. And I
Thank you.
mean, that instance in particular, Rob, really is what um, was a game changer for me personally because we had been going through a staff shortage at the time. We were
Mhm.
we had lost a few of our counselors. It was a really critical point in the cycle. And
Yep.
knowing that we had MyDocs to rely on to give us that preliminary glance was really, really helpful and completely just sold me on what we could do with this product over time.
Yeah, that I really appreciate you saying that. And I think it's a testament to our product team as well, who really spent a significant amount of time not only on accuracy, but handling volumes and being able to have burstable capacity for things like that. So it was great to see it come together in that way.
For sure. For sure.
Gianna, do you want to talk a little bit about, obviously you've had all this growth and at some point, you've been trying to find different solutions probably to help with the capacity constraints.
For sure, for sure. And we have definitely looked at a lot of options about ways to solve our problems. We had looked at changing our internal process of how we review applications. Do we really need all the information that we were pulling from our transcripts? And
Mm.
probably a few cycles earlier, we had really pulled back on the things that we were asking counselors to report out on from their transcript reads, but that wasn't enough. With the growth that we're experiencing, we needed a different solution. So when we began evaluating potential solutions, we were really, really clear about what we needed and what success looked like. So we needed something that would help us improve processing speed, but without sacrificing accuracy. That would have been a total no for us. If there was a tool that could help us get through things faster, but it wasn't accurate, that's not helpful. That just compounds an already existing problem. So we
Mm.
knew we needed both speed and accuracy. We also knew that we needed greater consistency in how these transcripts were evaluated, and that was a non-negotiable for us. We also wanted the ability to leverage the data on those transcripts so that we could gain earlier visibility into the pool and support our planning. And it's also been really helpful to have that data inform some other projects and opportunities that are happening around campus as well. And just as importantly, we weren't interested in changing our standards or reshaping our process to fit a product. We wanted the product to help fit our processes. And any solution really had to align with how we did our evaluations and support the framework that we already had in place, because I feel like we had a really good thing going. And I didn't want to sacrifice any of the things that we felt were necessary to get a good sense of whether a student would be a good fit at Merrimack. We also wanted a partner who would understand higher education and wanted to continue to grow and innovate with us, which was really important. And so once we were clear on what we needed, which was definitely a tall order for sure, we started looking for solutions that could deliver on those priorities. And so I think we really found that in MyDocs. So I'm excited to turn it over to you, Rob, to walk through Map It and share with the folks who are tuning in how your solution delivers on some of those things.
Fantastic. So no pressure at all.
No pressure at
This is,
all.
and then Gianna, if there's anything that you want me to stop on, we'll have a
Sure.
conversation along the way. I think I'm not going to show a ton of inside the mechanics of the product. Let's focus more on the output and the map itself that you mentioned earlier, but I'll give a quick little tour here for sure. All right. I'm going to quickly share my screen, and you guys see my screen okay?
Sure can.
Yep. Okay. So fantastic. So I'll show a few things on the product, and as I said, we'll go to the map. This is kind of your initial task list, or your My homepage, if you will, for all the transcripts. So what you're seeing are all the transcripts that are in someone's queue that are being processed with MyDocs. In the case of Merrimack, we integrate directly with their Slate environment via SFTP. So for everyone that's here, we do have a native integration with Slate, which was something we did with Merrimack. You are able to quickly filter some of these transcripts, so you can look at GPAs, total credits, where they're from. So some basic filtering that's here as well. And this is also where you'd go to configure some settings, which, we can talk about if we have time. But where the kind of the magic happens is here. So what you're really looking at on the left-hand side is just your typical transcript. And over on the right-hand side is all of the key academic data that we extract from the transcript, which sets up the foundation for the analytics and for the decision-making on the admission side. Gianna, anything that you want to say here, or that could you explain maybe the ease of use of the editor and being able to make changes if you needed to within the platform?
Yeah, it's so super easy. And I mean, I think that that's one of the beautiful things about the product is that when it doesn't get it 100% right, it is so easy to be able to go in and have manual oversight of that and make a quick correction, save it, and then have it come right into Slate. Luckily, we haven't had too many instances where we've had to do that because the product is really good at identifying the information on the transcript and articulating it correctly, but super, super easy when we have to go in and make these changes.
Fantastic. So you can make the changes, as Gianna mentioned, if you make a change and you save it, it does re-export to Slate. So now I'm going to go to really talk about the output. So the output of what we're looking at is called a map. So what you're looking at here is the map, which is the MyDocs academic profile. I'm going to kind of review this a little bit, and then Gianna, we can maybe hang on a couple points of where you found the value in the map for Merrimack. But essentially, the map is all of the data that's extracted from the transcript, along with some things that we calculate to provide some key insights. So you have some basic information at the top, which is just some simple student information. I'm going to come back to this midsection here in just a second. But then what you'll see are all the courses that are extracted from the transcript. We provide, obviously, the course title and names, but also the grades. And then we also have 3 different versions of a GPA calculator. So your standard unweighted GPA calculator, we have a weighted and then a custom. I'll talk about the custom in a bit, but the weighted is essentially how your school sees AP versus honors versus dual credit. So we take the values that you add for those different types of courses, and we configure them into the platform. And we also allow the partners that we have to make changes themselves so they can change those as they change their admissions practices. So you'll see all the different grades that are extracted. And then kind of going back to the top is where we provide some of the academic insights, where we try to make the decision making faster and more improved. And by the way, all of what you're seeing here, this map is also exported directly into Slate as a PDF along with all the other materials. So when you're looking at a student's profile, you're getting this as well directly integrated. But you're able to see things such as total courses, the total credits, the number of AP courses a student may have taken, the number of honors courses that would have IB or dual credit or other things that might be relevant to a student, but then the three different versions of the GPA. And then over here, what we're showing is how a student progresses over years and terms. So you're able to see how they're doing because, as Gianna, as you know, someone who wasn't maybe as strong in their sophomore year that's showing improvement in their junior year and maybe their senior year becomes a better candidate for admit. Um, and then over on the right-hand side here, you'll see some categorization. So we use SCED categories. This example is a high school transcript. So you're able to see how a student does by subject area. I'm just going to pick on math here for a second. You could see what the highest level of math is, the level of the courses that they've taken in math. So they've taken two AP courses, 9 courses in total for 10 credits. And then again, you're able to see their weighted GPA. On the custom side, what we've done with Merrimack and other partners is we allow them to remove certain categories they might not just consider during the admit process. So in this example, we've taken out human services and architecture and construction as a subject so that you're able to see their overall weighted GPA is a 3.76. And when we remove certain courses that we don't really count, it's a 3.74. So it gives a little different insights that you're able to see from the map. And Gianna, I'll maybe stop there and maybe describe how you've seen how Merrimack is using this information today.
Absolutely. So the map, as you said, feeds right into the reader. So when our team is reviewing applications, this is the first thing that they see in the reader when they go into an individual student's file. And it's been really, really helpful to have all this information at a glance. I think one of the things that really stood out to me, and I had shared with Rob and Haley, before agreeing to do this, I was like, I need to live and breathe the product myself.
Yeah.
Like it's great for the team to be able to use it and they love it. But, like I was in there reading applications, using these maps myself, texting Rob at 10 o'clock at night.
Hmm.
I was like, this is so easy and great. But there were a couple of times when I was like, MyDocs is counting this as an AP or an honors course. And I was like, I don't think it is. And then I would look it up and you had gotten it right. And it's so incredible to me because there are so many differences on transcripts. And, schools might say, number one is honors, number two is college prep. They've got different nomenclature for how they're
Hmm.
identifying things as honors, APs, dual enrollment, things of that nature. And to see MyDocs be able to respond to those different things, identify them and get them correctly accounted for in the maps is just so cool. It is just so, so cool. And it's been very helpful in allowing us to really identify which students are going to be the strongest fits for really particular programs that have different admission requirements. So nursing for us, for instance, is something that,
Hmm.
we need to identify highest math and science. We need to be able
Yeah.
to see very quickly which students have, the grade performance that we are hoping to see. So, super, super easy for counselors to use, super easy to pull the information that you need at a glance and update as needed.
Great. Thank you. And by the way, you can send text messages in any hour if it's positive. And then really quickly, one of the things that I just wanted to show for the folks that are attending, if I can get out of here. Of course, it doesn't want to work. MyDocs also does do international. So we're able to take international transcripts. We do the English translation, and then we also do the grade normalization. So if you're working on international, we can also take the grades from different countries and normalize them to your US standards and provide the same thing, the maps, and export that data into Slate as well. So
And what else
that's
are we working on, Rob? What's our third population we're working on?
Oh, well, now you're gonna have to you could put up a little pressure on me. So I guess I'm gonna stop sharing my screen. So one of the things that we are working on with Merrimack is understanding their transfer population as well, which we're working on, and we expect to have something in place for Q1. In fact, we are meeting tomorrow, Gianna, to go through where we're at with that. I think you're really gonna like it because the foundation of the map is present as well with the transfer piece. So it's important for me, and when I was talking about this with our guys in the product team, Andy and Slav, that the map doesn't go away with the transfer population. You need to know the credits that are going to transfer in, of course, but you want that rich admit data as well. So we're combining the best of both worlds, and I'm super excited to have that product ready to go. No pressure on the product team. It's going to be fun. It's going to be great, and we look forward to it. So yeah, it's one of the
Absolutely.
big things we're
I
working
just, yeah, I could do like a little jig right now, Rob.
on.
Gianna, you covered a lot about how this is helping your team on the day to day, but can you talk a little bit more big picture, longer term, how you see kind of using this data that you now have?
For sure, for sure. Um, I think one of the things to really note and what I've really seen positive returns on is just how much this product has changed how our team spends its time. You know, the cost of manual transcript review isn't just the time that it takes, but it's what the team doesn't get to do because they are spending so much time evaluating these transcripts. So our team is now able to spend more time doing this meaningful, impactful work that they should be doing, like building relationships with prospective students, families, and school counselors. And for enrollment leaders like myself, it has created a lot more space in my day for strategic work because I'm spending less time managing these operational processes, troubleshooting inconsistencies, or
Mhm.
reacting to things like bottlenecks that used to happen much more frequently. And we talked a bit about that human capital crisis, which is a really real thing in enrollment management. The saying in for 3 or in for 30 isn't a saying for no reason. And I had alluded to earlier the fact that we had some high rates of turnover. In the last 2 years, we've replaced almost 2 dozen professionals. So,
Wow.
you know, that was a real critical turning point for me about how
Mm.
advantageous MyDocs could be. Because when those people leave and the information leaves with them and you're training new folks, MyDocs was almost like an insurance policy for us that we could keep moving forward in spite of the
Mhm.
turnover and continue to make gains in other areas that we needed to, earlier forecasting, modeling, things of that nature, even when we had setbacks like these.
Mhm. Gianna, just on the turnover piece, if I just a question, do you think it's because the staff are hoping or expecting tools to be in place to do some of the human work, or is it there's just less of a desire to do some of these manual things, or just any feedback that you could share with the group on why you feel that turnover is happening and why it's been a consistent factor?
Yeah, yeah. I think sometimes the work does burn folks out. It's what we do is taxing. It's a lot of on hours, it's a lot of nights, it's a lot of weekends for
Yep.
sure. Um, I think to some level, folks do have the expectation that offices will support them when the going gets tough, when, they're being asked to do more with less. And that's really where a tool like MyDocs can come in and be really helpful in that way. And I think it takes some of the pressure off of teams, it takes some of the pressure off of enrollment leaders, and ultimately leads to better outcomes.
Right.
Gianna, any advice for anyone evaluating solutions that you haven't hit on yet?
Yeah, for sure. I've definitely got a few that I could highlight for you. I would say not to beat a dead horse, but look for a product that matches your needs. Um, don't change your processes to fit a product That's, as I mentioned, that was something that we felt really strongly about. I think that another thing that you really want to look for is a partner who has experience in higher education, someone who knows the pain points and is really interested in understanding your particular institution and your challenges. And it's also really, really important to find a partner that speaks your language, that has good communication, that wants to fix problems. I mentioned texting Rob. If there ever
Mhm.
is a need for a potential solution, we're not submitting tickets to queues and waiting days for answers on how to solve things. It's pick up a phone, have a conversation, fixed almost immediately. So you want a partner that's really responsive in that way. So I think I'll stop there. I could give you advice for days and answer questions for days, but I know we're up against time. So Haley, I'll turn it back to you.
Yeah, thanks, Gianna. I'm sorry we didn't get a chance. I know we have a few questions that have come in. We'll make sure to follow up afterwards with those, either directly or maybe we'll do kind of a Q&A in our follow-up with the recording. Um, if this resonated with anyone, sparked ideas, interests, raised questions about your own process, we'd obviously love the opportunity to continue a conversation, maybe in a way that's more specific to your institution, whether that's a follow-up conversation, a deeper dive into our platform. We're also hosting short working sessions with institutions specific to reviewing your admissions workflow, really designed to help teams take a step back, look at where the pressure points are, and identify some meaningful opportunities to improve, speed, consistency, staff capacity, etc. So we'll follow up with more information on that. We'll answer some questions either directly to some of the registrants or in our follow-up email. But thank you guys again for spending some time with us today. If you have any follow-up questions that you didn't ask already, feel free to reach out to Rob or Gianna directly, and then keep
Yep.
an eye out from an email from us in the next few days. But thank you again. We really appreciate you guys spending some time with us today.
Yeah, Haley, really quickly, I have been trying to answer some of the questions
Yes.
live in the chat, but just if folks have questions and I see the names here, we will get back to you with responses within the next day. So we will definitely answer your specific questions. So
Yes.
thanks, Gianna, for doing this with us.
Thank
Really
you for
appreciate it.
having
And Haley,
me.
thank you. And we'll see everyone soon.
All
Sounds
right.
good.
Thank you
Thank you.
guys. Have
Bye
a
Take
great
care.
now.
one.
Bye-bye.